Good to see you once again for another study in the book of Proverbs. You know, I realized at the end of the last lesson, I said I would see you next Tuesday for chapter 12. And you know why I said that? Because I can't remember what day it is. I mean, all of our days just seem to run together. Can you believe it? Tomorrow is going to be May 1st. And it just seems like every day is about the same. It really does feel like Groundhog Day, doesn't it? But we are here on a Thursday, and it's going to be chapter 12. And meeting with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays for these classes in Proverbs. I hope you have your Bible, and you can turn with me to chapter 12, and we'll follow along here. Now, what we've been looking at are a series of contrasts between the wise man and the foolish man, between the righteous and the wicked. And he's going to continue here. And he continues by contrasting the various situations. There's dozens of situations, the way they think, the way they conduct their lives, their consequences. And he contrasts all these different things between these foolish people and these wise people. And so we'll see some more of that right now here in chapter 12. Verse 1, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. He who loves discipline, if you look in the margin there, it says the word is instruction. He who loves instruction. And that is the key to learning. It's motivation. The one who loves it is motivated to be disciplined, to study, to learn, to have instruction. That's the one who finds knowledge. That's what he's saying here. But he hates reproof is stupid. You know, the love of one. David said, oh, how I love thy law. It is my meditation all the day. Psalm 119. It's an interesting statement Paul makes back in 2 Thessalonians. And we almost read over it, but in 2 Thessalonians 2:10 it says, with all the deception of wickedness for those who perish. He's talking about those who are going to be lost. He says, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. It begins with this love of the truth, the love of instruction. Peter says, like newborn babes, long for the pure milk of the word. You know, little baby, man, when they want something, they tell you they want it. They're hungry. They want to be fed. And we need to be people who want to be fed. You know, we should be folks say, oh, when can we study the Bible again? But too often we're going, oh no, do we all have to go to Bible study? Is that required? Does God mean we have to all go? You know, it starts with this attitude of desire. I want to know more. I want to learn. I love discipline. I love instruction. And so he says, you love that, you're going to have knowledge. If you're not that person, you're just going to be stupid. And he uses that word. Verse 2. A good man will obtain favor from the Lord, but he will condemn a man who devises evil. A good man is going to be blessed, but the wicked man, he's not going to be established. There's just no stability in their life. They're just from one thing to another, and they really have a hard time finding lasting stability. Verse 3 and 4. A man will not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will not be moved. A man will not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will not be moved. Almost reminds you of Romans 8, you know. For we know all things work together for good to them who love the Lord. They're going to be established. You're going to find establishment. Verse 4. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who shames him is like rottenness in his bones. An excellent wife. an excellent wife, a strong wife, a strong woman, one who is strong in principles, what he's talking about here. An excellent wife, she's excellent in the way she lives her life. She knows what godly living is all about, and she is a crown of life. Mind you, Proverbs 31, the excellent wife, who can find? And he says here that she's a crown to her husband. You know, I have this crown of honor that I wear. I could be so proud of this crown because my wife has blessed me so much. I would never be what I am today without my wife. And that's what he's talking about. How blessed is this man who has this excellent wife. You know, we think today, we think so individualistically today. We want two totally independent people to come together somehow. And as two becomes one. And to do that, you have to give up your independence and become dependent on one another. And it is good that you have a godly wife that you can be dependent on, or a godly husband that you can depend on. And that's what he's talking about. And he's saying, here, she's the crown. And then it talks about the rottenness of the wicked woman. The old Coverdale Bible says that she contracts disease and brings it home. And not just a physical disease, but there is an emotional and a spiritual disease as well. The wife is so important. And so he just says, you know, an excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who shames him is like rottenness in his bones. It's so important to have a good wife. I'm so thankful for mine. Verse 5, the thoughts of the righteous are just, but the counsels of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright will deliver them. Here he's starting to talk about thoughts and words. And thoughts and words go together. Words come from our thoughts, and we know how these come together. And words are going to be a great emphasis to Solomon. Over and over he's going to talk about our words. In this chapter especially, he's going to talk about that. And so words. And he says, the thoughts of the righteous are just, but the counsel of the wicked are deceitful. All I can think about is the next thing that's evil. Now, foolish people only think of those things that are wicked. That's what he's talking about. Wicked think in terms of evil. Verse 7. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. Verse 3 and verse 7 here are kind of bookends to one another. They say the same thing. Verse 3, a man will not be established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will not be moved. Then verse 7, the wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. He's talking about a stability that comes with wisdom. And with the foolish, there's just no establishment. They're just everywhere. Verse 8, a man will be praised according to his insight, but one of perverse mind will be despised. We can think of examples of that, can't we? Those who are wise, we praise that person. We admire those folks. We can see the way they've lived their life, and we praise them for their insight. Verse 9, better is he who is lightly esteemed and has a servant than he who honors himself and lacks bread. Better is a poor man who provides for himself than the one who lives like royalty without the means. Some would rather starve than do manual labor. And there's nothing wrong with work. And he's talking about this man who, although he doesn't have a lot, he is lightly esteemed, but he has a servant. He takes care of his own. But then he who honors himself, who builds himself up, but he doesn't have anything really to be to work with. He lacks bread. Verse 10. A righteous man has regard for the life of his animal, but even the compassion of the wicked is cruel. Again, this contrast between the righteous and the evil. And the righteous, Christians should take care of their animals, what he's saying, especially a beast of burden, as in this agricultural society that Proverbs was written to. In fact, the fourth command of the 10 Commandments that keep the Sabbath, one of the reasons to keep the Sabbath was to give rest to your beast of burden, your animals of burden. Christians should be known for their compassion to animals. Christians should never be cruel to animals. You know, those involved in cockfights and dog fights, that's wickedness. And we should never be involved in that type of thing. We should be known. And he says that even the compassion of the wicked is cruel. They think that they're doing something that's good, that is helpful. I mean, this is the way these animals are. We're just bringing out this natural thing in them, and that's not right. It's not true at all. What an insightful proverb there. Verse 11. He who tills his land will have plenty of bread, but he who pursues worthless things lacks sense. Again, this idea of working hard for what you have. And the sluggard, the lazy person, he's not going to have what he needs. And he's a curse. You know, it's not a curse to work. Sometimes we act like work is a curse, but even in the Garden of Eden, Adam was given a job. Working is not a curse. Having a purpose in our life is not a curse. Having something to do is not a curse at all. And he says here that, you know, that it's going to have a result. The one who tills the land will have plenty of bread, the one who works hard. And then go down to verse 12. The wicked man desires the booty of evil men, but the root of the righteous yields fruit. The wicked man desires, he envies the booty of the wicked man. He applauds, some say applauds. He wants to imitate the wicked person. He wants to do what they do. You know, it looks good to have all this drug money or all this stuff from evil, and it looks like easy money to them. And he's talking about that. That's the wicked man. But the root of the righteous yields fruit. The righteous person is productive in what he does. An evil man is ensnared by the transgression of his lips, but the righteous will escape from trouble. A man will be satisfied with good by the fruit of his words, and the deeds of a man's hands will return to him. Again, we go back to talking about words and speaking the truth. A person who's a liar, you know, it's hard to be a liar, because they have to have a good memory to keep their story straight. And they keep getting caught over and over in their lies. So if you're going to be a liar, you have to have a good memory. And that's what he's talking about here. You know, the righteous doesn't have to do that. He just tells the truth. And he's going to be fruitful. And the deeds of his hands will return to him, because he's not been deceptive in what he's been talking about. Verse 15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man is he who listens to counsel. The foolish guy, his standard of what is right is what he thinks. Whatever he thinks is right, that's right. He thinks that he has truth, that he's smarter than everybody else. There's that way that seems right unto a man, but the end is death. It's not that the fool doesn't think that he's not doing right. He's not trying to do what is not right. He just thinks that what he is doing, whatever it is right. He's a fool. That's what makes him a fool. But a wise man is he who listens to counsel. He is learning. He's learning from God. Verse 16, a fool's anger is known at once, but a prudent man conceals dishonor. A fool's anger is known at once. He's quick to anger. He's quick to say things that he shouldn't be saying. He speaks what's ever there on his mind. And he is known at once, but the prudent man conceals dishonor. The angry man just brings dishonor to himself, no matter how right he is about what he's saying even. He just brings dishonor. He looks bad because he can't control himself. Verse 17. He who speaks truth tells what is right, but a false witness deceit. There is one who speaks rashly like the thrust of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips will be established forever, but a lying tongue is only for a moment. We're still talking about words, the power of words, the power of our mouths, the power of our lips, what we say. And those who speak rashly, they hurt with their words. They are cutting with their words. They do harm with their words. The damage of careless words to wound and to hurt. On the other hand, in contrast to this, is the wisdom of words. Wise words can heal. They can comfort. And they can do so much. And so he's talking about the emphasis here on words. Verse 21. Or verse 20. Deceit is in the heart of those who devise evil, but counselors of peace have joy. 21. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked are filled with trouble. There again goes back to what he says in Romans 8. For we know all things work together to them who love the Lord. Those who are trying to follow God, it seems like their life just seems to go better than those who are constantly looking for wickedness. The wicked are filled with trouble, he says. Verse 22, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who deal faithfully are his delight. 23, a prudent man conceals knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly. That's an interesting verse, isn't it? You know, even a fool, if he doesn't open his mouth, can look like a wise person. He can conceal his lack of wisdom by just not saying anything. But this verse is not talking about that. It's talking about the prudent man. He's a wise man. And what he's saying here is that even a person of learning can talk too much. Just because you know the answer doesn't mean you should try to give the explanation for everything. There's a time just to be still, just to be listening, just to watch what's going on. And he says here, a prudent man conceals his knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly. The fool just wants to talk. He thinks he knows what he's talking about. And even the prudent man needs to be careful that he doesn't say too much as well. Verse 24, the hand of the diligent will rule, but the slack hand will be put to forced labor. I think about this guy here. In verse 24, the hand of the diligent. He is industrious. He's independent. He works hard, and he will rule. He will rule himself. The man with a slack hand, the lazy guy, will be put to forced labor. So he's always going to have somebody telling him what to do. There are those who seem to know what to do, and they go out and do it. I know so many people who've got their own businesses. They're so industrious. They're so diligent. They find a way to work, and they work hard. And there's others that just can't seem to get started. Somebody's always going to have to tell them what to do, he says. So don't be lazy. He says, be industrious. Take initiative. Verse 25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good word makes it glad. Anxiety, sorrow, and sadness. Again, we're talking about the power of words. Words can be so powerful. And as we saw previously, words can do so much damage. But here he's saying words can do so much good. Words can bring healing and comfort to even those who are anxious, to those who are sorrowful, to those who are hopeless. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good word makes it glad. The righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. There's a guide who knows the way. And the wicked is always going to lead astray. He doesn't know where he's going. And then verse 27, a lazy man does not roast his prey, but the precious possession of a man is diligence. You know why the lazy man doesn't roast his prey? Because he doesn't have any. He's too lazy to go out and catch any. And he doesn't have it. The precious possession of a man is his diligence. His ability to go out and seek food, to seek employment, to seek work. Verse 28. In the way of righteousness is life, and in its pathway there is no death. It's a great way to sum up this chapter, isn't it? This is a person who lives for God. And there's a certain way that he goes, the way of righteousness. There's a pathway here. He's talking about the pathway. In this pathway, there's no death. The way of righteousness is a path. It's a direction that we're going. It's somewhere that we're headed. And it brings life. It brings an abundant life. That we know how to live. We know where we're going. We know what's important. And we live towards that. There's been in this chapter, and there's going to continue to be this contrast, a contrast between the man of God and the man of Satan. And there's a strong connection here between verse 1 and verse 28, the first verse and the last verse of the section. In verse 1, he said, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. And here in the way of righteousness is life, and in its pathway there is no death. That person who loves truth, who loves God, who loves righteousness, who loves doing what God would want us to do, who seeks after wisdom and wants to live an abundant life, he's going to find it. And there's not going to be anything of evil in that person's life. He's going to do what God wants. Well, chapter 12 has been full of information. A lot of stuff here in chapter 12. So next Tuesday, next week, we'll look at chapter 13. Thanks for joining me today.